in different ways to one Leeds, whether you love football, enjoy shopping smart, enjoy earning money, or finding new opportunities. BetMate puts a fresh twist on fantasy football. Pick your team, compete in real time based on match stats like goals, assists, and tackles, and win cash from community prize pools. There's no house advantage, it's player versus player, making it fair and fun. Shop G&O is another one of our sponsors. It's a stand against rising prices and corporate greed. Their mission is to give customers and businesses real value and real opportunities. You can get massive discounts and exclusive offers, earn rewards, points and prizes when you shop, auction platform with no crazy fees to sell your items, affiliate and network marketing to earn money promoting, vendor marketplaces, and every transaction supports the GNO Foundation, giving back transparently to people in need. Shop, earn, sell, support the community. GNO makes every transaction count. Looking for a new job or career move? Job Match Group connects people to real opportunities fast. They match your skills with employers actually hiring and give you support along the way. CV help, interview prep, job coaching, and exclusive roles you won't find on normal job boards. And our final sponsor today, Match Bingo. Imagine bingo, but based on live football events, goals, corners, cards. They fill your bingo card as the match happens. It's perfect for watch-alongs and makes even the dullest 0-0 entertaining. Play for cash jackpots and prizes in real time. And with our offer, new players can grab free or discounted entry games, plus special promos for big fixtures. These sponsors power the channel and they all offer something for you. Big thanks to them for supporting the channel, and make sure you check out the great offers.
What a start to the game! 17 seconds on the clock. It's going to be one of the quickest goals of the Sky Bet Championship season. Here's Cook. Cook goes for goal! And finds the back of the net in sensational fashion.
Jones now for Leeds. And McNabb only half stopping him. Jones getting it across. And Clark going in! And Alan Clark has put Leeds ahead!
Live down under. Mark Viduka is a sporting god in Australia and now in West Yorkshire. Here he is again. It's Viduka. It's four. It's all his own work.
Well, hello everybody. How are you doing? My name is Conor McGilligan. This is One Leeds, and I'd just like to apologise for the lateness. Lateness is greatness, as always, everybody, but apologies for that. It is the first, I think, room mill we've got of the week, actually. The last couple of days have been a little bit more analytical. They've been a little bit more around Leeds United and me just getting my thoughts out there. Today, you'll probably see just in the headline there, everybody, I don't normally do this with the room mill, and we will get onto the rumours in just a little bit. But I really want to switch it up. I want to switch it up, and I want to get into a deep dive. I've not done one of these in a while. If you do want to join me throughout this, really interested to get your thoughts. I want to get into a Dominic Calvert-Lewin deep dive. I want to get into how we get the best out of this guy and why it's currently failing. Because I think right now, I've mentioned this previously in terms of Leeds United, this, that, and the other. But I think right now, in terms of maybe the what we're getting from DCL, the way we're playing around DCL, I mentioned it yesterday and the day before, but I actually think Leeds are failing to get the very best out of him. And I want to give the evidence. I want to speak about how we can get the best out of him, not just with my verbatim, my language, but with evidence as well for Dominic Calvert-Lewin at the best points of his career. So today, what I'm going to do is something a little bit different. I'm going to go all the way back to 2019, 2020, and 2021, okay? Peak of COVID, but when Dominic Calvert-Lewin had the best moments in his career under Carlo Ancelotti. And I'm going to compare. I think the comparison is there because we play a 4-3-3. I think the comparison is there because Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the focal point in a Carlo Ancelotti system. But there are some key differences. And this is why I wanted to get onto the DCL deep dive today, because I feel like it's really imperative we get to the bottom of this. We as fans sort of understand, because sometimes it can be a bit difficult. You know, we're looking at tactics, we're thinking, oh, they must know a little bit more than us. And they do, obviously. But sometimes it can be quite basic as well. And sometimes and somewhere with Leeds United in and around these processes that we're going through this season and the tactical imprint, I do feel it is slightly basic at points. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the style of play today. And I wanted to just flash up straight away some of the key statistics around the deep dive, okay? So Leeds United are currently 16th for touches in the attacking third, 7th for touches in the middle third, 18th for passes, progressive passes received. Key one to keep in mind there. 12th for touches overall. 6th for touches in our own defensive third. Think about that. Have a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a think. 17th for touches in the penalty area. So just compute all of that, everybody. I understand sometimes numbers and all this sort of stuff, and you're thinking, flipping it, Connor, can you break that down for me? But all of these are really important numbers with Leeds United, our style of play, and really getting into the DCL deep dive. Okay. So ball progression is something that we've spoken about previously. And versus Brighton, something really key and something which shocked me really was Dominic Calvert-Lewin had as many touches in the opposition box as Jakobiel, as many touches in the opposition box as Joe Rodon. One more touch in the opposition box than Lucas Perry. So his best ever season, DCLs, was under Carlo Ancelotti in 2021. Carlo would come in, I believe, around 2019, 2020. They started off quite interestingly in a 4-4-2. Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin up top. And then in the second season, Carlo reverted or went back to, which he'd played previously in a couple of his other managerial stints, to a 4-3-3. And this is where Dominic Calvert-Lewin hit the absolute peak of his career. He got an England call-up and he got 16 goals. I think really, really interesting as well is how Leeds United have recruited when it comes to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The language coming from the club is he was effectively our top target. You know, Dominic Calvert-Lewin flirted with other clubs as well. Was Rodrigo Muniz in there? We think he was. We put a bid in for him. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin appeared to be very high on the Leeds United sheet when it came to recruiting. Really important to keep an eye on because he wasn't just a frivolous signing. We all know that. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin shouldn't be put into this frivolous sort of bracket, really, when it comes to Leeds United as well. So injury-free season, 4-3-3 under Carlo Ancelotti. And right now we're getting to a point with DCL where realistically, we might be in a phase where he plays a lot of games for Leeds. So that's why it's comparable, because to his stage with Carlo Ancelotti, he played a hell of a lot of games that season. It looks like he's doing the same for Leeds United right now. So these attributes of what these are the attributes that Leeds United have wanted in the Premier League. It's physicality, it's athleticism, and if you want any more evidence to that, you look at Lucas Mecha, who fits a very similar profile. And if you want further evidence to what Leeds want as well, you look at Joel Peru and how he was playing most of the season. Last season got 19 goals, but Leeds have moved away from that. They've completely moved away from that. Why? Because Leeds United know what needs to happen in the Premier League when it comes to attributes, when it comes to stylistic fights. That is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That is Lucas Mecha. So what I found really interesting about this whole thing with Dominic Calvert-Lewin is something that you guys might find quite interesting as well. So when asked by Sky Sports in 2020 for the secret behind his goal-scoring form under Ancelotti, Calvert-Lewin revealed, the biggest thing he taught me is to be more selfish with my movement and to stay more central. My job is to score goals and be the focal point in the team. Carlo Ancelotti's coach on Dominic Calvert-Lewin focused on simplifying his role to emphasize goal scoring within the penalty box. And we're going to get onto that in just a little bit. Ancelotti instructed DCL to stay within the 18-yard box and only focus on one-touch finishes, which helped him score 16 goals in one season and proved a key part of his turnaround in Everton. Ancelotti's approach also involved praise for staying focused and a simple instruction. Now, this was a massive thing. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's highlighted this on the High Performance podcast. It was all staying within the area. Do not move outside the area. We want you in there. We will facilitate exactly what is to your strength. which is in the box. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin in that season with Everton had 11 touches outside the box. He was primarily inside the box, which is really, really important as well when having a quick look at this. And I feel somewhere, maybe on here, I might be able to show you guys, but I feel at some point I might have something to evidence his heat map, which could be here. Let me just have a quick look. See if I've got it. Have I got it in there? Maybe. Let's have a quick look. I don't think I have, but basically his heat map was purely central. But when they were playing a 4-4-2, it was out wide a little bit. He was getting dragged out, and basically Ancelotti figured out that he needed to be more central to get the best out of him. Really interesting points coming up as well. Now, told DCL to stay in the box. Now we've got to validate that 100 grand a week. We've paid this guy 100 grand a week to keep Leeds United in the Premier League. That is a severe investment for Leeds United. To keep this guy in the Premier League effectively, and to keep Leeds United in the Premier League, of course. Really important to look at. Okay, then we're going to move on to we've spoken about the stats. Let's just have a quick look on the other Ancelotti point we've got on here as well. This is interesting as well when you look back at that season. So bearing in mind, again, guys, the context is he was playing a lot of games for Everton, which it looks like he's getting to that point with Leeds. I think his injury record is overblown a hell of a lot when it comes to the last couple of seasons. He's actually had good periods, good bouts, but he's playing the 4-3-3 system as well. And it was interesting stylistically how it was very different for Everton to get the best out of him and what Leeds need to get to. And that's my overarching point in this video. Everton have carved out 1.6 big chances per 90 for their number 9 so far. This was during the season, obviously, in 2021. This has helped him score at a remarkable rate of a goal every 56 minutes compared to this one, to 202 minutes last term. While he's yet to score from outside the area, whilst he's yet to score from outside the area, reason being is because his strengths aren't outside the area. You will never see Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You might once or twice in the last 2 or 3 years, 3-4 years, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't score goals from outside the area. It's inside the area, which is interesting with his heat map this year because a lot of it is outside the area. While he's yet to score from outside the area, Calvert-Lewin's confidence in front of goal has been outstanding. A conversion rate of 46.2% is unsustainable over a full season, but it underlines how clinical he is right now. Calvert-Lewin is in the form of his life. And we are seeing, a lot of with DCL, his attributes haven't gone anywhere. He's still the same player. He's 28 years of age. He's had a few injuries, of course, but in his last 2 seasons, I think that has been overblown a little bit, as I've mentioned. But critically, for Everton in that season, per 90, he was getting 4 touches, or he was having 4 shots per game in the opposition box. Massive. Absolutely massive. Okay. Sorry, I should say for Everton in that season, touches per game, 4 touches in the opposition box. For Leeds, currently, he's having 1.1 touches per game in the opposition box. Okay, really important to have a look on as well. Now, this isn't a player, by the way, in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's just allergic to goals, which I think a lot, unfortunately, of the rhetoric, the media. I do hate the media coverage around him, to be quite honest with you. I think it's a bit daft. But his goal ratio for Everton was pretty decent. Obviously, it was spread apart a little bit. We know that there was injuries there, but 71 goals in 270 games had him at a 1 goal in 4 rate at Everton. Obviously, we know so far at Leeds United, context applied, he's only had 9 games, but he has scored that 1 goal. Now, the major difference for Everton in the 4-3-3 system, if you know your football, if you know your nostalgia, was James Rodriguez. Absolutely huge for Dominic Calvert-Lewin in that season. A lot of you will say, Connor, recruitment-wise, we're never going to get a player on the likes of James Rodriguez. Ancelotti recruited him. Previously worked with him at Real Madrid. Colombia superstar in the World Cup. Player of the tournament. Unbelievable player. That season that James Rodriguez played with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which massively aided the striker's development and obviously his goal scoring. Bearing in mind at that stage, DCL was around about 23 years of age. James Rodriguez only got 4 assists, but per game, He was making 7. He was making nearly 8 long balls per game. Now, bearing in mind, James Rodriguez is in the offensive third, but he's switching those balls to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and the runners consistently off Dominic Calvert-Lewin were Luca Dean on that left-hand side, the left-back who is now of Aston Villa, consistently behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It would be a trigger every single time that ball was played to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Dean getting in and behind on the overlap, which basically would maybe aid Dominic Calvert-Lewin in flicking the ball on, then getting back into the box, which is where, obviously, bear in mind, Carlos told him to stay. But at the end of that campaign, James Rodriguez only had 4 assists. So it wasn't just this unbelievable metronome and facilitator for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Dominic Calvert-Lewin couldn't miss because James Rodriguez was in there. It was a style of play that Ancelotti put into this Everton side of whatever area you are in, whether or not it's the centre-backs, whether or not it's the goalkeeper. You play the ball to DCL, we look for the flick-ons, but it's not just as sort of archaic and route one and old school 80s with the greatest of respect. It's not as archaic as that. It's the players within the wing options. It's the central midfielders. It's the mid-range passing as well. It's the short-range passing to DCL. It's whatever means possible, whatever means is necessary. Get the ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Everton's forward passes that season were 5th in the Premier League as well. So it's get the ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin as quickly as possible, hold up play, get the opponents out of shape, and we'll move in around that structure and framework. So important in a 4-3-3 to be able to penetrate the opposition. Really important. So it's all about the deep line playmakers, make that effort to play as well. So as I've mentioned before, Richarlison, Digne being huge facilitators in and around. And I'll just bring this back up again, everybody. Let me just bring this back up again when it comes to the stats. 16th for touches in the final third. This is Leeds United as a team. 7th for touches in the middle third, which is extremely high. And then we just go all the way down to 6th for touches in our own defensive third. That is basically saying to me that we are methodically playing the ball around, slow, sort of, not always slow, but methodical, playing the ball around from the defensive in the middle third. And then you kind of look at the attacking areas there, everybody, the touches in the final third, the progressive passes received. We're in the bottom 3-4. Massive connect problem. Now, another real issue there is when you're looking at these statistics is previously we might have had a Somerville, we might have had a Rutter, we might have had a Rafinha to be that connector between the midfield and the attack. That is not how Leeds United have recruited. It's not how we've recruited. And when you look at someone like Noah Okafor's intention a lot of the time isn't to play a long ball, a ball into the box from deep to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's to get the ball and to dribble. So therefore, when you are playing these long balls at stages, you've just got to get off Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You've got to work off him. Big point there. Leeds United playing a low line at this minute, and what you're seeing with Dominic Calvert-Lewin is he's winning flick-ons from goalkeepers. But the big statistic here is, everybody, he's had 15 shots. 15 shots overall. I mentioned this earlier. He's having 2 shots per game. And for Everton at that moment, he was having 4 shots per game. Now, the big conversation is this Everton side were better than Leeds United. Of course they were. Of course they were. But when you're getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin having so fewer touches, when you're getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin out of matches, isolated, there are ways of which you can counteract that. There are ways in which you can get more out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I hope this is what this is putting towards you guys right now. Look, the brilliance of James Rodriguez back in the day in 2021, the brilliance of him. But it's the attempted long balls, which is really important. The attempted mid-range long balls, nearly 8 long balls per game, or mid to long-term balls per game. You got to think about where James Rodriguez was picking up the ball very deep in that attacking half, then hitting Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then Lewin having runners off him. And we have to bear in mind as well, Daniel Farke doesn't like the long balls. We're all very aware of that. And he's mentioned it with Tanaka in press conferences before, how he wants it to keep it, short and within the spaces. Doesn't like long balls. Now, a lot of people as well will talk about DCL and his big chances missed. Right? A lot of people will talk about the big chances missed when it comes to DCL, and they'll say, look, Connor, he's missed 5 chances this season. So if you're getting 5 chances for Leeds United in the Premier League, you've got to convert. And you're absolutely bang on. There's chances against Bournemouth, there's chances against Tottenham. And I've come out on here many times and said, look, he's got to finish. He's got to finish those chances. Everton, in the season that we were just talking about, the 2021 season, where he was at his best in a 4-3-3 system and the team was built, molded around DCL, which it was, Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed 17 big chances. 17. But he scored 16. Okay? So quite similar to that of Patrick Bamford that season as well. Missing massive chances, but he scored 16 and he was huge in Everton's entire build-up play. And Ancelotti has said this several times that he was one of the main fundamental reasons why Everton was so successful that season because of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But Dominic, the overarching point is here, Dominic will always miss chances. That is who he is, but you've got to build the team in and around him. You've got to get the spaces tighter. You've got to work in and around him. There's got to be strategy to get the best out of the guy who you're paying 100 grand a week. Otherwise, it's completely pointless. You can't just put Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the team and go on, perform. He's not that type of player. And if he was that type of player, he'd be playing for a Champions League side. Okay? Now, something else I wanted to move to. Last season. Let's blow this up. In one of Daniel Farke's press conferences, he said, "We need goals from everywhere. I was a striker." Bear that in mind. Farke said this a couple of times in press conferences last season about him being a striker. Okay, we'll get onto a little bit. "I was a striker. I started my coaching career at a smaller club in Germany. We had a striker who won the Golden Boot. We had to sell him due to financial reasons. Next striker, Golden Boot, same again. Then I moved to Borussia Dortmund 2. Marvin Duksch, who, by the way, I think is playing for Birmingham at this moment in time and looks very good. Then he got the Golden Boot. We sold him to Werder Bremen. Very good striker. Next, won the Golden Boot 5 seasons in a row. My striker won the Golden Boot. I moved to England and we signed Timo Pukki. I worked with him. He won the Golden Boot Championship twice. I went to Borussia Mönchengladbach. I converted Marcus Thuram into a striker and he scored double figures. I played in the World Cup final for France, scored 15 goals, finished second in the Golden Boot. I know my business. Here's the big bit. I know my business when it comes to strikers. When it comes to winning this league, I know my business. I know exactly what my strikers need." So that's really important because when you look at Ancelotti and you go back to the best manager that DCL has ever had and has got the best out of him, when he went from that 4-4-2 system to the 4-3-3 system, that was to get the very best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to work around him, to mold the team around him, and to get obviously beneficial, impact off Dominic Calvert-Lewin in terms of Richarlison, Luca Dean, James Rodriguez, of course. But he got the best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. At this moment in time, Daniel Farke is not getting the best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Way too isolated. The system doesn't benefit him whatsoever. No long balls. The accuracy of the long balls is around about 35%, I think it is, if you look at FootMob. But Leeds are in the bottom 3 when it comes to long balls. We'll get these stats up again. 18th for progressive passes received. 17th for touches in the penalty area. Accurate long balls that season for Everton, they were 4th. 4th. That is moulding a team in and around. They weren't just a long ball team. They were a good team. Allen in the midfield, Decore in the midfield, Rodriguez. They could mix it up and Leeds can mix it up. But of course you can do that. It doesn't have to be you're a long ball team or you're a sequence combination short passing team. Of course not. You can do both. That makes you unpredictable. That is what we need. Unpredictability, not predictability. At this moment in time, you've got a player who is very decent at a select region of bits, and we're not utilizing that. Massive problem. Massive problem. So, yeah, we've spoke about the Ancelotti difference, and we spoke about the unpredictability, runners, long ball sequences. Farke, at this moment in time, we've spoke about the connector as well, but these early balls have to happen at this moment in time. And the recruitment job of which we spoke about a little bit earlier on, when it comes to that recruitment drive of what Leeds United went for with the second balls, with the physicality of the athleticism, we're moving away from that. And that was almost really symbolic at the weekend when Leeds United had barely any touches in the opposition area. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was completely out of the game. He had 1 touch in the opposition box, but Leeds United had 50% possession. Once again, let me just flag this up again. And we can't just use the Brighton thing as the excuse as well, because this has happened in multiple games now. But once again, as my stats man has given me here, Liam, 16th for touches in the attacking third, 18th for progressive passes received, 17th for touches in the penalty area. This just isn't a Brighton thing, okay? Really important to look at. Now, looking a little bit more positively at this and how we can maybe look at something which would aid Dominic Calvert-Lewin is by doing this. And this is kind of what I was speaking about yesterday as well. You've got no Okafor. You've got Dominic. You've got Willie Gnonto. I don't know if it's called Dean Gnonto, but there you go. You've got Willie Gnonto. But listen, the beautiful thing about this is the risk that Leeds need to start taking. Can we get some deep lying crosses from Gabby Goodmanson from halfway, like Luca Dean used to do with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and the knockdowns used to be absolutely brilliant to the midfield when it came to Decore, who was really profitable from that midfield stance that season. Alan was a little bit more of a screener, the Brazilian, but you had Decore, and you had obviously James Rodriguez, who would be a wide player during that season, really profiting from the knockdown, and Richarlison as well, of course. But can you get maybe Gabby Goodmanson playing these long arcing balls to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then Calvert-Lewin can get Stack into the game as well, the runner, the athletic runner, who obviously can play in the number 8. We like him in the 6, but we know he's got a real good stride. You know, he's long-limbed, he's athletic. We know he can cause some real problems in that space, just in behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin. No Okafor. Can we actually start getting him crossing the ball a little bit earlier? It's not Noah's fault. I think a lot of it is instruction. We know he's the best dribbler. We know he's an excellent player at getting to the byline. But is that Dominic Calvert-Lewin's best game? I'm not 100% sure it is. I think the ball being sort of raked in from deep, and the balls, you know, from sort of the just outside the penalty area in terms of the floaters, the whip balls into the box are really going to aid him. But what we've got to do, everybody, is when we are playing these mid to long-term range balls, you've got to get players in around him. If he's isolated, Leeds are going to go down. Leeds will go down if this continues. We've got to start getting the best out of him. And what he does is, when you get the best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, like they did in that 2021 season, you get the best out of James Rodriguez, you get the best out of Richarlison, you get the best out of Luca Dean, you get the best out of Decore, you get the best out of the team in and around him when you bring the big man into proceedings from an offensive standpoint. Really important. But Gnonto, at least when he comes in, has the technical capacity to do things off Dominic Calvert-Lewin, very similar to that of Noah Okafor. And we see that front three. We change the style of play. I think we will be okay. But these statistics, once again, these absolutely cannot continue and have to change. 16th for touches in the attacking third, 7th for touches in the middle third, which is great. 6th for touches in our own defensive third. But those two statistics in itself tell a very, very problematic scenario with Leeds. A lot of the ball, as I've said, 50%, I think we had 50.2% possession against Brighton. What do we do with it? Nothing. And that is the big evidence with it, really. So let's get into a few of your guys' comments in the section below, and we will get into the little bits in and around it when it comes to that. Good morning, Connor. Hey, Brett. How's it going, mate? Good to see you in here. I hope you're well today. Smash a like, you lovely people. Farke, will Farke still be in if we lose to Forest? We'll get into that. Sam Taylor says, morning, Con. Love the channel. Respectfully, though, although the Brighton performance was disappointing, I think we're doing okay. 11 from 10 games. Yeah, no, it's fine, mate. I don't think we're doing badly. I think it's once again getting misconstrued, mate, that I think we were having a terrible season because, as I've said, unfortunately, and it's not yourself, Sam, but there's varying degrees in our fan base. I know we're an emotional lot, but if you think one way, you can't think the other way. That's how it is. If you think A, you can't think B. I think we're having a good season so far, but I think there is a declining trend in Leeds United statistics and a worrying pattern which is continuing. That's my issue. And then we're going into a host of games of which I think confidence is going to be stricken by us losing these games. But these patterns, these trends, and have got to improve. They've got to improve. Leeds are once at 11th. We're now at 16th. We will continue to get further down if these issues aren't rectified for me. Connor, the midfield aren't good enough. They don't play the balls through the lines in behind, pushing the opponents back. Knox, I would say a lot of that is on instruction, mate. If you are told to keep the ball between a 5 to 7 yard radius, if you're told to, your style of play is to build up and maintain possession and not go long at points and look for that knock on. That's your style of play. You know, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is instructed to come out of the box to get the ball, that's not his game. You know, if Noah Okafor is encouraged to invert and dribble, then okay, that's fine, but it's not going to get the optimum out of Leeds United consistently. Chris is not comparing DCL to Haaland, but City have changed their style. Great example, mate. We need to do the same for DCL. Get the ball forward, out wide quickly, and get crosses in. Unfortunately, it's just the slow pedestrian build-up, which is a serious issue. A serious issue. Lens in the building, always going to be tricky for DCL. As you mentioned, Carlo asked him to stay between the width of the penalty box. We need him to do more than that and run the channels for us too. We do indeed. Yeah, I think a lot of the time as well, though, it's with DCL, running the channels is absolutely fine, and we understand that these balls have got to be a little bit more accurate. When Leeds have got a 30%-ish hit rate when it comes to these long balls, that's a serious problem in itself as well. But it's got to a stage right now where the system, I feel, is impacting him to a degree of which isn't getting the best out of Leeds United's offensive line. You can ask him to run the channels. He was still running a hell of a lot and competing a hell of a lot for Ancelotti's Everton. And did he ever come out of the box? Of course he came out of the box. He's not just having to stay in there with an electric fence around him. But his attacking phases were massively coordinated within that penalty box region, which I think is really important. But a lot of it is facilitated. If you're looking at channel balls all the time and you look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin running the channel balls and running this and running that, you need to get players in and around him to help him with that. And that's all about risk. It's all about risk. Get your players up. Okay, you're going to be susceptible to a transition, but you're susceptible to a transition. You've overloaded in certain areas, and they're also susceptible. Now you've done that. Okay. Fair enough, mate. Out of interest, if we're thinking of moving on from Farke, who would you have in mind to replace him? I don't think it'll happen. I think it'll get noisier. To be honest with you. And we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how noisy that will get after Nottingham Forest. I'd have to have a sit down and think, mate, I've got a couple of names in my head who I'd probably go for. But once again, I do think this whole nonsense of us not being able to get anyone is absolutely rubbish. I think worst case scenario, you were to move on from Daniel Farke and it wasn't to work out or whatever, which we all want it to do because we want consistency and continuity in general for Leeds United. But if it wasn't to this whole nonsense of us looking at Wolves and going, oh, well, we can't do anything then because Wolves have done something, for me, it's rubbish. Right, okay, look, well, let's get on to a few of the bits, everybody, as well, that we were planning on getting onto today. Let's see how many of you are in the building. Please slap a like on the video, guys, and let me know what you thought when it came to the deep dive as well. Please let us know in the comment section. But let's get on to a couple of names. Let's move on from Dominic. And let's get on to a few of the bits. Okay, so Takefusa Kubo. This is someone who we mentioned really sort of earlier on in the rumour mill. And it was an interesting one because Leeds were linked to him and we reported it. And we'll try to get his statistics up now, actually, Kubo. Now, this name has come up again and again and again when it comes to Leeds. Now, for me, if you just have a look at his statistics here, this is probably not going to happen. But there's a few rumours. So we'll get onto this guy in just a second. But there's a few rumours circulating that Leeds are going to move on to someone like Takefusa Kubo in the winter window. Now, he is a winger. He's very, very good, very small but dynamic, low center of gravity, all the usual bits we speak about, but he's great when it comes to ball connection. Reminds me a lot of Sakamoto at Coventry at this moment in time, but his price value is around 40 million quid. There's reports today stating that Leeds United are going to move for that, for the Japanese player. And there's a brilliant market out, right, for the Japanese players at this moment in time. There's such a good technical ability there and energy and endeavour, which really aids the Pressy system, which we're now involved in when it comes to systematic changes of the modern era. And Kubo absolutely facilitates that. I believe he used to be at Real Madrid as well. A lot of clubs are courting him. Now, obviously, he's at the Basque club Real Sociedad at this moment in time. But yeah, I can't see Leeds United moving on that whatsoever. It doesn't make a lot of sense with the money that we're talking about and the money that's going to be put around in that window. Would Leeds go out and sell someone like Yol Peru to be able to facilitate a big signing? I would go and do that. We've obviously moved away from whatever style of play Joel Peru was involved in last season, which I don't think we facilitated even Joel Peru's style of play, because it was very different. He'd have to come into the half spaces and come onto the edge of the area, Naturally, you want a striker to be in there, but that wasn't Peru's game, so it was a bit of a weird signing with him overall. But didn't he do brilliantly well to get 19 goals last season, of course? But, the volume of chances Leeds would create in general because of the calibre of side that we have in the Championship is context to be applied there as well. But someone like Takefusa Kubo would be a great signing. I just don't think that would be. that would be something that we're looking at. But there's rumours looking at him today, and yeah, I think it's a little bit wide of the mark. Interesting one. Now, from what there's conflicting reports from what we were led to believe, and what I was led to believe, there was no recall clause whatsoever. No recall clause whatsoever for Largy. Reports via The Athletic are suggesting a little bit earlier on, last couple of days, that Leeds United may have the ability to bring Largy Ramazani back. Now, as I say, conflicting reports. There is nothing that we know really in terms of the fundamental on Largy Ramazani. I'm sure just the people close to Leeds and close to Ramazani know this. But there is a potential recall clause in January. Now, would you exercise bringing in someone like Largy Ramazani again, recalling that, and really been able to have a little bit of pace in that attacking region? I don't think it'd be a bad option. As Niles just said then. Definitely worth the chance to recall Largy, one of our better players when he played last season, have the moments to change games. Martin says Conor Ramazani won't come back because Farke won't play him. And that is probably where Martin's bang on the money there. Bang on the money. I mean, January is a really key period for Leeds with the likes of Peru, I think, and what's going to happen with Melee. Is there going to be some sort of pre-contractual agreement with another club? There probably will be. But when it comes to Largy, I would obviously be bringing him back. Obviously, his pace, he's an option off the bench. Interestingly for Valencia as well, he has been playing on the right. I would prefer him on the left, but then there's a conversation with no Okafor, but there is still that exhilarating pace that he can bring. But if Ramazani's not playing out there, it might be a point of conversation that maybe Leeds United have put something in his contract as to why we can bring him back and how we can bring him back, and maybe that is based on the amount he plays, presumably. Because if he's not playing X amount of minutes, what's the point in being out there? And maybe Leeds will be able to cancel the contract. So maybe this is the verbatim right now. He's not got an active recall clause in his contract, but if he's not playing set amount of minutes, set amount of games, that recall clause is then triggered. That's what it might be, and that's what does happen in football contracts. You see that in the lower leagues all the time. So, but would you bring Largy Ramazani back? Like, yes. Yes. I think there is I mentioned yesterday when it came to how Leeds United should play at points, players coming off the bench and playing 60, 65 minutes and being almost that vertical player who can get the ball, run forward, win Leeds United free kicks if we are winning games, or even if we're losing games, getting Leeds up the pitch, having that low centre of gravity to attack that middle phase of the opposition. Obviously, I would 100% be bringing him in. Kershaw's just said Wilson has been excellent at Fulham. Shame we didn't get him. Interestingly, Kersh, that we were just speaking about that Dominic Calvert-Lewin conversation as well, and what you saw with James Rodriguez was him always cutting in onto his favoured foot and playing that ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, Harry Wilson isn't James Rodriguez, but it's a very similar profile, isn't it? You know, and if you're playing with players off him, that could really work. A deep line, effective playmaker in Harry Wilson hitting the ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and us working off him, that could work. So it's not a similar player, but kind of the profile of Harry Wilson is something a little bit similar. So yeah, I think Ramazani is just speed. He's our player. He is an impact off the bench. If you wanted to bring him off the bench, there is a genuine conversation right now that he starts at points. So yeah, it's a tough one, or is it a tough one? Lee says, for Ramazani to return, it would depend on Farke going. There's a reason 49ers only wanted a loan, 100%. Paul says, didn't DCL turn down Premier League clubs? Apparently, mate. Tom says that there is clearly an issue with the manager, so there is no point in coming back while Farke is here. I kind of agree that, and Leslie says the same thing. If he's not willing to start him, if he's not willing to play him, it might be worth Leeds just getting him back and sending him out on loan again. I just don't understand where, if we don't have to sell him, what's the point? Like on loan, if they don't have to do it. And obviously, it's the wishes of Largy. Yeah, it's strange for me. Yeah. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I wanted to touch on Noah Okafor as well. Dorigo, we didn't mention this the other day. Dorigo absolutely hammered Noah Okafor, which, as you know, Dorigo, look, we've had him on the channel before. He's an employee of Leeds. He's a commentator right now, but he came out and said he's going to need a half-time team talk effectively dedicated to Noah Okafor, says Dorigo. And it's just, do you know when you sit there and you're like, what, you're working on LUTV, Tony, look, and we come out with some outlandish things, but he's our most creative body. He's our most talented player in the attacking third. And we play Brighton. We get to a certain area where every single time he's taken on FIFA, he's doing well. He's our only 1v1 operator who's getting any means of success. And you effectively say at halftime he needs the hairdryer treatment and he needs a halftime team talk from Daniel Farke dedicated to him. Just sometimes like words are just, and I think it's because like obviously everything's subjective. We always mention this, but I think people with like, on really powerful platforms. And this is why I take my role here seriously with my community as well. It's because you have, I guess, the ability to change maybe a person's narrative or change perspective or whatever. And that's why I try to take it as seriously as possible and try provide as much evidence and balance as I can, really, even though I do have my own opinion. But Dorigo saying something like that, I felt it was a bit of a damning comment. You have a plethora of thousands of Leeds fans watching you. For you to put that out there, that could have some sort of influence when it's just, I mean, you literally look at data, you look at anything, it's just absolutely not true. And it's bizarre again. And it just feels like the flair when it comes to some Leeds United players from, Jorginho Rutter, from all the way through to Somerville to a certain level as well. It's like the flair players inside, it just feels like they are criticised a little bit too much. Largi Ramazani is another one. These impactful players are going to lose the ball. They're naturally going to lose the ball because they're trying to make an impact, and it's risk. Risk gets reward. If you don't risk, then we're in a really problematic state. I'd love to actually say to Dorigo, well, is that your general perspective? And I will be close to listening to Dorigo next time, because if he is criticising him and he's having a half decent game, and then you start hearing Dorigo say something like, "Oh, we'll want Jack Harrison in." This is all you need to know. It's all you need to know. But yeah, I don't understand so many qualities to his game. Obviously, we don't see on the pitch, but off the pitch must be really poor for this reality to be the case. Yeah, I don't think it is, mate. Stupid to loan out Largi, who's having it bad with injuries, isn't he? Can he handle the Prem if he can't handle La Liga? Well, Anthony, that is a really good point. And that is exactly what everyone will be. Josh, I'll get onto that, mate. Cheers for that, buddy. That is exactly what everyone will be saying now. It's well, if he can't do it out there, then he can't do it here. Bearing in mind it's different systems. He's playing on the right-hand side now. He's not been getting that many minutes, has he? Well, he just feels like Largi needs a little bit of faith in him at this moment in time to build confidence and a bit of momentum in his career. So, I mean, we can just have a look at his player stats now as well. Let's flag that up. Been going quite long this morning, haven't we? Guys, if you haven't already, I think we've got like below 100 likes on the video. Do us a favor and please slap a like on the video, please. Largi Ramazani. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, I mean, so he's had 5 appearances, 1 assist, minutes played 85. So he's played 85 minutes. It's once again, it's like if you let me just get the transfer bit off, but that's it. If he's not getting that, that level of oh god, of course the player stats isn't working now. Annoying. Yeah, sorry, Anthony. And now like the thing is just fantastically frozen. Is everything off? No, okay. Yeah, my screen is frozen, everybody, so apologies for that. So Anthony's comment is just going to stay on screen. But yes, he has played 85 minutes, mate. So once again, it's just not enough minutes to be able to, especially when you're adapting to a new culture, a new team, a new philosophy, a new style manager. When it comes to Carlos Corberán, it's going to be very difficult for you to really get into the mold of it for me. But guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining. Let me know in the comment section below what you think on DCL. Am I miles off it? Am I on it? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Do me a favor, don't just put in the comment section he's crap, because there's just no point in commenting. There's just no, and what you're doing there is you're feeding into a media and general fan perspective, which doesn't watch Dominic Calvert-Lewin, doesn't see what he does, and you give yourself a little bit of I'll give you a little bit of credit if you're coming back and putting in the comment section the whys, the wheres, and what you think and stuff like that. Just don't come in and say he's crap, he's this, that, and the other, because we're not really having a conversation there, are we? We try to encourage a little bit of debate on here, and we could disagree, of course, but yeah. Guys,